I like Shane Bieber. I think what he's doing at South Carolina is impressive because I think that's a hard place to win. And I think it's a hard place to even be somewhat remotely competitive, despite what their fan base might think and everything that comes along with the reality that is not everybody is the most reasonable college football fan of all time. And yet, I think Shane Beamer has caught in a lot of strays the last couple of days because he admitted that he might have kicked something in frustration and broke his foot. Now, I think the reaction has been somewhat mixed where I think some people are like, it shows the passion and the intensity that Shane Beamer has. And then on the flip side, like there was a reaction from Paul Feinbaum, and you can argue all you'd like Paul Feinbaum, the reaction doesn't matter. Paul Feinbaum doesn't matter. Yes, he does. Paul Feinbaum carries a lot of weight in the Southeastern Conference to the administrators, to the coaches, to the presidents, to media, whoever. Paul Feinbaum is the most important, is maybe the second most important person in the Southeastern Conference, and is the most important media member in college football. And so Paul Feinbaum's reaction to Shane Beamer breaking his foot, kicking something in frustration, was, quote, "This guy was laughing about it, cajoling, thinking it was a high school frat prank. This is a head football coach at a major SEC school, and he breaks his foot in frustration. If he had shown half that effort in trying to stop Florida from blowing them to pieces at the end of that game, I think maybe the season wouldn't be on the brink of going straight down the toilet. That was really incredible." End quote. I understand Paul Feinbaum's reaction to that, but I think it's a little too serious. It's college football. It's a pissed off coach. If you have ever been in a locker room after a frustrating loss or a disappointing loss or even a tight win, there are stories of things getting broken, coaches being angry, punching things. For instance, I got to the locker room in the 2013 Orange Bowl, 2014 Orange Bowl, when Clemson beat Ohio State, and Ohio State had to wheel out a whiteboard that had a massive hole in it. It doesn't take a surgeon brain to figure out just where and how a hole got put into that whiteboard. So this idea that like Shane Beamer is immature or is a hothead, whatever the case, whatever you want to call it, because he broke his foot in frustration, I think is a little like too serious. I understand that there is a thought process and a feeling that being a major college football coach is the equivalent of being a CEO at a Fortune 500 company. It's not. It's not that serious. Nobody lives and dies if Shane Beamer makes a wrong play call on third down. Stock prices aren't going to tank, and the economy could potentially collapse if Shane Beamer kicks something in frustration. It's just not that serious. Like, this is supposed to be fun. And I realize that it's his life's work. Like, the energy and effort that he has put in to getting to where he is right now is drastically different than the way we consume it. But yet, he's still a teacher teaching young people to play a game at the end of the day. Now, we might have lost some sight about that on the way because it's very important to us. But in all actuality, Shane Beamer is a guy who is teaching kids to play a game. So if he breaks his foot in frustration because he's really pissed off about the way that his kids aren't learning to play the game that he would like them to learn and the way to learn to play that game, it's not that big of a deal. And I think we can equate that sometimes and we lose sight of the fact that it is a false equivalency of like, if your doctor wasn't happy about the way a surgery went and he smashed the table in frustration and broke his hand, is much different than a college football coach breaking his foot because he's angry. It's just not, there's not an equivalent here that is in the real world that matters. Okay. Like Shane Beamer breaking his foot, pissed off, is kind of the least of my worries. Because I promise you, there is a college football coach who has done way worse than, like, of all the things that we can look at, complain about, and second guess, speculate on, whatever. Like, if we want to, like, it's just so easy to turn this into fun that I don't understand why the super serious nature of like, oh my goodness, is Shane Beamer the right guy for South Carolina after he broke his foot, being angry? Like, there's enough stuff to be really serious about. If you want to have the discussion of like, so what do you think Shane Beamer kicked? Like, what broke his foot? Like, was it a chair? Was it a wall? Was it just one of those big ass rocks that you use for decoration? If you want to have that discussion, that's much more up my alley, because college football is supposed to be fun. It's the whole point of it is that we're having some fun here, man. That's the whole point. The whole reason we care, the whole reason that it is interesting and entertaining is because it is fun. And to turn something that should be inherently fun. And again, maybe this is just me, my personality, right? Like, I don't like this TV show Breaking Bad that so many people think is the best show of all time. I don't like it because it's not nearly as funny as it could have been. Yeah, I realize it's supposed to be a drama. It could be one of the funniest TV shows ever created if they just wanted to make it that way. So again, maybe this is just me. Maybe this is just the thought process and the feelings that I have on it. I just think it's a ridiculous story. So to try to turn it into this very serious news story of like, questions persist in Columbia of whether or not Shane Beamer is the right fit. Like, no. It's an angry coach who feels the pressure of meeting the expectations that people have set for him and has so far not completely met those expectations. And he's frustrated about it. This idea that when you close your eyes and think about, okay, what does Shane Beamer kicking a whatever and breaking his foot look like? And you envision like a toddler having a temper tantrum. That's fine. I think sometimes we lose sight of, and I have said this before, of these are real people. Shane Beamer is a flawed human being, just like I'm a flawed human being, just like you are a flawed human being. He is not going to be perfect. And that's okay. Expecting perfection out of somebody who cannot, under any circumstances, meet that isn't necessarily fair. So the idea that, he's supposed to be a leader of men and he's out here, he can't even control his temper. You don't ever get pissed off and like, I scream at people while I'm driving. The idea of being angry at work to the point where you unintentionally injure yourself, and again, maybe this is just me, is not that foreign of a concept. The idea that I could be so mad about the result of something that is going to take me away from my family, take time away from my kids, take time away from maybe some self-interest or hobbies that I'd like to do, because being a college coach ain't a 9-to-5 job. It's not something that you just show up and do and then get to go home and pretend that, like, leave your work at home. It's not. So if Shane Beamer is so mad about something that he kicked it in frustration and broke his foot, he should laugh and cajole about it, the way Paul Feinbaum described it. He was laughing about it. Well, yeah, it's ridiculous. And to think that he doesn't know that it's ridiculous is ridiculous. Of course he knows that injuring yourself out of frustration and anger is stupid. Anybody, like, I have like some scars on my right hand from where I one time angrily punched a taillight. Pro tip: don't punch things that break or that aren't going to give. Like, I have a friend that broke his hand punching a concrete block wall when we were, I don't know, 19 in college. Yeah, that's going to win. The taillight that I punched and now have scars down the right side of my right hand, it was going to win. Not a great idea. But you get a little self-consumed sometimes and you lose a little bit of perspective and you lose the ability to think like a normal human being for 10 seconds. And in those 10 seconds, something can go bad and go wrong that makes you go eventually later, like, oh, you're the dumbest person to ever walk the planet. And so maybe it's just my flaws that I can relate to Shane Beamer saying and doing and acting out of frustration. But the idea that there are now legitimate questions. No, there's not. A passionate dude got frustrated, kicked something, broke his foot, and then was like, yeah, this is the dumbest thing I've ever done. If anything, it shows an extreme self-awareness. Like if he was to walk in with a boot and somebody says, hey, what happened there? And his response is like, well, you know, these kids, they got me so angry. I'm like, no, he took responsibility for it. He says it was a stupid thing to do. The end. Like, that's all there is to it. This was a dumb thing for me to do. I did it. I am now suffering the consequences from it. That is how kind of life works. You make decisions. In this case, a very poor one. And now he is suffering with the consequences that everybody in America who wants to know about this now knows that Shane Beamer might have a bit of a temper. And that's just something that you have to live with. And it's going to persist. And I think that's okay. Like what other option is there other than to just own it? I've said before, and I think I said it on this podcast, be wary of people who have an inability to admit that they either have been wrong or are wrong. And embrace the people who will tell you flat out, I was, am, is wrong. I am wrong. I was wrong. The very first things out of his mouth were like, this was stupid. I was wrong. I have a deep empathy for people who have that ability to say, this was stupid. I don't know what I was thinking. I was wrong. It's that simple. He did it. So why would I do anything other than be like, hey man, good for you. I appreciate your honesty. Because that's as important of a trait as not being a psycho and kicking things to break your foot. Shane Beamer's a flawed person, just like I'm a flawed person, just like you're a flawed person. None of us are perfect. And we've all done things that we're like, God, that was stupid. Why did I do that? The difference is you just know about what he did. You just know because he admitted what he did. So I don't have an issue with it. I think treating it as if it's anything other than a ridiculous story is just missing the boat in self-importance and self-aggrandizing moral high ground malarkey that I don't necessarily like. There's a time and place for it. When a coach is accused of covering up like serial rape for his players, yes, we can have moral high ground discussions and serious discussions and topics and conversations. When a coach kicked a chair and got pissed off and broke his foot, it's not the time for the super serious, super important, wondering, questioning what the future holds. This just ain't it. And I realize that the more serious that a topic is, the better it sells, the more clicks you get, the more attention it's paid. I'm just not willing to do that. I'm not willing to turn this into something that is anything other than just a like ridiculous story. It's preposterous. It's funny. And then you move on to the next thing. The end. So that's where I'm going to leave it. Like that's just what I think. That's what I think the reaction has been or should have been. It has been way too serious. So pump the brakes and have a little fun. That's just me. And maybe that's just my personality, and maybe that's why I can't imagine. And maybe it's the perception around Shane Beamer. If Mike Leach had been angry, kicked a chair, and broke his foot, I don't think anybody's taking this like super seriously. And maybe it's because Shane Beamer has been super serious. Maybe he needs to lighten up too. But I think that has to start somewhere else first before he's willing to drop that guard a little bit. And treating this as if it's some very serious allegation, that ain't it for me. That'll do it for today's edition of the Daily Huddle. Thanks for making us a part of your day, however it is, wherever it is you're doing so. Certainly appreciate it. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you're getting all of our great content we're pumping out here at Saturday Glory. If you're listening on the podcast, drop a 5-star review. It helps get in front of more college football fans. It's really invaluable in reaching more folks. So if you could drop a 5-star review, we certainly would appreciate it. Tomorrow on the show, we're going to make picks for every top 25 matchup. Not just the top 25 versus top 25. Every game that is played by somebody ranked in the top 25, we're picking them tomorrow. I want winners. And you'll get them tomorrow here on the Daily Huddle. Appreciate you making us a part of your day. We'll catch you tomorrow right here on Saturday Glory.